Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Kalachandji Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kalachandji Shri Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We'll start with the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We can sing this all together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, One should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayeshva vajreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. My regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and my rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes in the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Alright, Hare Krishna. Thinking we can just do a full Mangala Charana, because why not? So we already did Om Jnana. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchagapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, and we're beginning the 26th chapter today, and it's titled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So, does anyone have the microphone? Okay. Can you read text 1?
The personality of Godhead, Kapil, continued, My dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the Absolute Truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature.
Okay, so this class today, it's a cold day today, so naturally everyone is very sleepy, or I'm speaking for all of you, but I was very sleepy when I woke up today. So this can be more of a discussion, because I honestly don't have much prepared for this class, and speaking on analytical Sankhya philosophy can be very difficult for me. So we can all kind of, if we have some points that we like, we can share them and make it easier for me and easier for you guys to stay awake too. Because if it's just me talking, it's going to be very hard. All right. So, who is Kapila Dev speaking to? Devahuti, who is? Let's see. I got Kapila Dev here. His mom. So, right now we're in the month of Damodar, so there's a lot of emphasis on Krishna and his mom. So, here we also have Krishna, Kapila Dev. He has golden hair. It's described very nice, and he's speaking to Devahuti Sankhya philosophy. So, yeah. And so he says he's now going to describe the different categories of the Absolute Truth. So what does that mean, like categories of the Absolute Truth? I'm not entirely sure, but we're going to find out. So basically he's going to break down how to understand the Absolute Truth, which is what we're all trying to understand, right? We're all here to learn the Absolute Truth, so Kapila Dev is about to give it to us. And by knowing this Absolute Truth, any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. All right, Sankirtan, can you read text 2?
Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realizations. I shall explain that knowledge unto you, by which the knots of attachment to the material all are cut.
Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about knowledge. Why do you guys think knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization? Yeah, so you don't have blind faith? Okay. Any other thoughts? Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like, isn't bhakti the ultimate perfection of self-realization? Jose, yeah, you can just call it out. I'll say what you say into the mic. Okay, that. Yeah, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there. Without knowledge, how can there be love? Rasatru, did you have any thought? Okay. So Rasatru said that Krishna says, Janma karma chime divyam. And so Krishna says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not return to the material world. So, yeah, one who knows knowledge. And so the knowledge and bhakti are non-different in that sense. Yeah, so we're not going to be talking about jnana here. We're going to be talking about understanding who is Krishna and why do we want to know who is Krishna? Just call it out.
If the text 1 says different aspects of the Absolute Truth, the different categories, which are the 3 primary categories, right? There's Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. And so when we talk about ultimate perfection of self-realization at these 3 different categories, knowledge is different. Sankhya will lead you more towards the Paramatma realization. However, Kapil Dev is going to basically incorporate that into the understanding of Bhagwan also. We'll see that. But in one sense, you can say that knowledge here, the perfection of self-realization is also in the different categories. So, in that sense, you can also say knowledge of even the impersonal, the knowledge of the 3 modes of nature that we are going to talk about, is also perfection of self-realization. It leads to a different category of realization of the Absolute.
Jai. Thank you. All right, so yeah, let's get into it. Jose, can you read, or Rasarchru, do you want to read text 3? Okay, Jose, you've been nominated.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul, and He has no beginning. He is transcendental to the material modes of nature and beyond the existence of the material world. He is perceivable everywhere because He is self-effulgent, and by His self-effulgent luster, the entire creation is maintained.
Okay. The Supreme Personality of God is the Supreme Soul. It's kind of like what you were talking about, Super Soul. And He's transcendental to the material world, and He's perceivable everywhere, self-effulgent. In the purport to this text, Prabhupada, he talks about how Krishna, he's like the material world is like the cloud. And so the sun, it creates the cloud, right? The sun evaporates the water and the cloud is formed. But the sun is not subject to the cloud. Does that make sense? So the sun, even though it's created by the cloud, it's not disturbed by the cloud at all. But the people who are on the surface of the earth, the cloud actually obstructs them from the sun. So the material world is like that cloud. All right. Text 4, Prue.
As his pastime, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy, which is invested with 3 material modes of nature, and which is related with Vishnu.
Okay, Jai. Text 5.
Next 5. Divided into varieties by her threefold modes, material nature creates the forms of the living entities, and the living entities, seeing this, are illusioned by the knowledge covering feature of the illusionary energy.
Okay, so there's kind of a little bit of a narrative going on. Krishna, he first creates the universe, and then he accepts the material energy, as in he's basically creating it and infusing his potency within it. And it's interesting, we're going to talk a lot more about this later, but the translation says, as his pastime. So these are actually pastimes of Krishna. This whole thing with the material world is, you can read in the 3rd canto, Srila Prabhupada says that this is as good as Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. These are his pastimes. All right, maybe if you want to read text 6, or we can pass it around a little more.
Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of the material energy as his field of activities, and thus, actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself.
Okay, so in the last text, the living entities, their bodies are created by material nature, and they're illusioned, and now, because of their forgetfulness, they accept the influence of material energy, and he thinks that this is where he does his activities. So he wrongly applies the activities. He's not doing the right thing. Text 7.
Material consciousness is the cause of one's conditional life, in which conditions are enforced upon the living entity by the material energy. Although the spirit soul does not do anything, is transcendental to such activities, is thus affected by conditional life.
Okay. So the soul is transcendental to the activities. He's unaffected. And Jose, can you read text 8?
The cause of the conditioned soul's material body and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is a material nature. This is understood by learned men. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself.
All right, this is our focus verse for today. Karya karanaka trivre karanam prakritim vidu Poktritve sukadukhanam Purusham prakrite param. You guys recognize any words in this Sanskrit? Massage Prabhu, you want to call out one you see? Karya, work. Okay. We also see Sukha and Dukkha. Sankirtan, you probably know what Sukha and Dukkha are, right? Happiness and distress. Yeah, Prakritim. So we're talking about the living entities here. And then we have Purusham. So the Purusha. All right. I guess I'll do it one more time. Karya karana kartrivtve karanam prakritim vidu bhoktritve sukadukhanam purusham prakrite param. Please chant. Karya Karana Kartruve Karanam Prakritim Vidhu Bhokritve Sugadukhanam Purusham Prakrite Param. Karya Karana Kartritve Karanam Prakritim Vidhu Bhoktitve Sukadukhanam Purusham Prakrite Param. Karya Karana Kartive Karanam Prakritim Vidhu Bhoktritve Sukadukhanam Purusham Prakrite Param. Karana Kartritve Karanam Prakritim Vidhu Bhoktritve Sukadukhanam Purusham Prakrite Param. Sankirtan. Karya Karana Kartive Karanam Prakritim Vidhu Bhoktritve Sukadukhanam Purusham Prakrite Param. Okay, we can do the synonyms together. Karya, the body. Karana, the senses. Kartritve, regarding the demigods. Karanam, the cause. Prakritim, material nature. Vidhu, the learned, understand. Bhoktritve, regarding the perception. Sukha, of happiness. Dukhanam, and of distress. Purusham, the spirit soul. Prakriti, to material nature. Param, transcendental. So we found Karanam. I just remembered the verse. What's it? I literally just forgot it. Sarva Karana Karanam. Cause of all causes. Yeah, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. So Krishna is the Sarva Karana Karanam. Alright, can someone, or I'll just read this. Because of the conditioned soul's material body and senses, and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. This is understood by learned men. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. Can someone read the purport?
In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that when the Lord descends to this material world, he comes as a person, by his own energy, Atma Maya. He is not forced by any superior energy. He comes by his own will, and this can be called his pastimes or lila. But here it is clearly stated that the conditioned soul is forced to take a certain type of body and senses under the three modes of material nature. The body is not received according to his own choice. In other words, a conditioned soul has no free choice. He has to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. But when there are bodily reactions as felt in happiness and distress, it is to be understood that the cause is the spirit soul himself. If he so desires, the spirit soul can change this conditional life of dualities by choosing to serve Krishna. The living entity is the cause of his own suffering, but he can also be the cause of his eternal happiness. When he wants to engage in Krishna consciousness, a suitable body is offered to him by the internal potency, the spiritual energy of the Lord. And when he wants to satisfy his senses, a material body is offered. Thus, it is his free choice to accept a spiritual body or a material body. But once the body is accepted, he has to enjoy or suffer the consequences. The Mayavadi philosopher's presentation is that The living entity enjoys his pastimes by accepting the body of a hog. This theory is not acceptable. However, because of the word pastime implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment. Therefore, this interpretation is most misleading. When there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. The Lord's pastime and the conditioned living entity's acceptance of karmic reaction are not on the same level.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, we learned a few things here. So what is in our control, according to this verse? What is under the living entity's decision? You can just call it out, or if you want to use the mic, you can.
Being in happiness or suffering.
Yeah, whether we're happy or we're distressed. That's under our control. And what's not in our control?
The reactions of our karma.
Yeah, so specifically, those reactions culminating into us getting a particular body. Jahari?
I have a question, but thank you. I have a question for this. So in this one, Srila Prabhupada is saying that happiness and distress is under our control?
Yeah, because we are making the choice. He's saying that in the purport, he's talking on how the living entity, it can choose whether to serve Krishna or to serve Maya at any point. And thus that is what is being talked about in the happiness and distress.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. So basically, is there the correlation between being happy and serving Krishna? Is that?
Yeah. That's kind of what's being implied here. It's it is kind of, it's not talking about material happiness or material distress, really. I mean, yes, material distress, but the point is being made that in life we will be handed situations. Like we get this body, for example. We have this body. This is our situation, and it's what do we make of it? So that's kind of the theme here. Is that I remember once Keshav Bharati Maharaj, he was talking about how he really hurt his back. Lots of senior devotees, they go through a lot of pain and they experience a lot of pain. But he talked about how the pain, it's like the suffering and the pain were two separate things. Because you can be in physical pain, but the suffering is your choice. Whether you are suffering or not, that's up to you. It's kind of how we choose to make of it. Same thing with having a material body, is there is going to be pain involved in having a body. That's just what happens when you have a body. But it's up to us whether we choose to experience happiness or distress.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. Thank you, because I was just thinking about the Bhagavad Gita. I don't have it memorized, sorry, but there's a passage that says that happiness and distress come of their own accord, right?
Yeah.
And so
214.
Or what is it?
214.
214, and so one must learn to tolerate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just trying to relate that to this verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. It's kind of like the pain will come, but it's up to us whether we are suffering or whether if we see it as even the mercy of Krishna, that becomes the greatest joy. If, like a devotee, he, for example, let's say he gets super injured, doing Sankirtan or saving the world with Bhakti or something, that injury becomes very satisfying for him, or because it's this austerity that he's taken. Austerity in general, waking up early to go to Mangalarti, that is, it's not very pleasant to the body, but it becomes very satisfying. It makes you very happy when you do it, if you choose to do it for Krishna. That's one of the things here. All right, so and then another point in this, just to reiterate, we talked about what's in our control, whether we are serving Krishna or serving Maya. And we'll get a body either way, depending on that. And then based on that body we get, we will have to face the consequences of that. And then Prabhupada, he talks about the word pastime. Do you guys remember where we heard the word pastime in the past few verses? Rasaj Prabhu. Yeah, so Krishna creating is a pastime. Krishna, whenever he interacts with the material nature, in which he doesn't interact with them directly, but it's his pastime. Versus us, this is not our pastime. I remember one time this devotee was telling me, like, this is all just like our pastime. We're all just like moving through the world as our pastime, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Prabhupada is saying that the Mayavadis, they say that this is the living entity's pastime. This world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. This world is a place of misery where there's danger at every step. So Prabhupada, he makes this honestly pretty hilarious example of the hog. The Mayavadi says, oh, we are God. We are all God. Why is God in the body of a hog? You're mixing up the Godhead and the hoghead. So we need to understand that Krishna, when he appears and all the demigods are there. The demigods are offering their prayers, and when he's born, there's like beautiful fragrances being blown across all the land, and it's like the perfect alignment of the stars. It's really beautiful to meditate on. Krishna in the womb, he's like a flame. It's described a flame kept in a pot, because Devaki, she's in jail, but she has like this most radiant, most amazing person here. So that's how Krishna is born. And similarly, as we get later into the teachings of Kapila, he talks about how the living entity is born. Does anyone remember or have read before what the living entity's birth is like? It's quite the opposite. There's no one praying. There are no demigods praying when we're about to be born. And actually, instead of like this situation, it's described how when we're in the womb, it's like very hot there, and there are worms in the womb, and the worms are biting us, and it hurts so bad. And the living entities, mothers are like, oh, he's kicking. Oh, he's kicking. It's like, he's kicking. He does not want to be here. And the living entity in the womb, he prays. So it's not the demigods praying, it's the living entity praying. In the womb, he's praying, Krishna, please, this is so miserable. Like, I promise I will serve you when I come out. I promise I'll be your devotee. This is described in the teachings of Kapila, that the living entity prays in the womb. Not every time, but it's pretty common, I guess, or it's generally the living entity prays in the womb, please take me out. I promise I'll serve you. And then you're born, and oh, he's so cute. Oh, you're the little Purusha of the house. Everything is circling around you, and everyone is circling around you. Oh, he's crying, we have to help him. Oh, he's happy, that's so wonderful. And so we forget our promise. We forget the promise that we made to Krishna. And we promised that we're going to get out this time. And at least everyone here, we're now trying to renew this promise that we made to Krishna. We're trying to serve Krishna. We're trying to be truthful to our word. I just lost my point. Yeah, the living entity, someone made this analogy once. I forgot who, but it stuck with me for like forever. The mother, during pregnancy, she's like, oh my God, this is so rough. This is so annoying, like having like a baby in here. And then especially like delivering the child is extremely painful. It's like one of the most painful things you can do. And so the mother's like, I'm never having another kid again. I'm never doing this again. This is the last kid. And then you see they have like 5 more kids. You're like, wait, what did you say? Like, what happened to that? So it's the same way with the living entity, is that there's so much pain, and so we're praying to God, and then, you know, we end up not sticking to our promise. So that's kind of all I have is here is analyzing the difference between the living entity coming to material nature and Krishna. So what's the difference? Krishna does it as a pastime. The living entity is obliged, is forced by material nature to accept a body, to suffer in this way according to his past actions. And then the first point that we talked about was how the living entity is able to choose whether he wants happiness or whether he wants distress. And the material nature then fulfills that by giving him a certain body. I guess we can end here for some reflections, comments on, yeah. Do you want me to pull it up?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was in the paper. Let's see here. It was something about, it was related to the pastimes. I think it was a little further down. This theory is not acceptable, however, because the word pastime implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment. Therefore, this interpretation was misleading. That was, I was kind of like wondering about that a little bit. Maybe if you could talk about that a little bit more. The word pastime implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Who are they referring to?
So, if you scroll up a little bit, it says the Mayavadis, they present that the living entity enjoys his pastimes. And Prabhupada's making the point, the living entity is not enjoying pastimes, because Krishna does pastimes. Krishna's pastimes is he's voluntarily accepting enjoyment, versus the living entity is involuntarily accepting suffering. So that's the difference between Krishna and the living entity. We are forced to suffer. Krishna is accepting enjoyment. It's completely opposite, actually. So Prabhupada is countering the Mayavadi theory here.
Okay, yeah, and he just sums it up when he says, when there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Rasraj Prabhu?
Thank you, Drishti Prabhu. The point of saying that, you know, suffering and pain, the two different things, it's a wonderful point, that pain is involuntary. Suffering is a choice. Suffering or not is a choice. Yes. I guess you made that point with, I believe, Keshav Bharati Maharaj mentioning that. That is beautiful. It is this whole idea of free will comes about several different times, right? And I guess we can, I mean, from what I understand, and you may correct me, is that within the material nature, there is no free choice. Once we choose to enjoy separately from Krishna, choice goes away. Which is very interesting, because you know what's happening in the world today, as we see, you know, thousands of children dying, and you know, just in wars. And from a devotee standpoint, or you can look at COVID for that matter. Yesterday there was a discussion about, you know, about COVID, and you know, whether vaccines should be taken or not taken. But all of this is not a choice. what is a choice, from my understanding, was to actually see whether we, through all of this, how best can we remember Krishna. So we just needed to want to elaborate or maybe give some thoughts on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. I was thinking about the war and stuff. And we're so fortunate to be here. We're practically in Vaikuntha. Kalachandi Dham is, we choose to create our own anxieties sometimes. You can be in the most perfect utopia, but if your consciousness is not at the most perfect utopia, you'll find some way to be miserable there too. So we are living in the spiritual world. We're protected from all these things, but sometimes we can't realize it. To your point on, it appears we only have two choices. Srila Prabhupada, he is talking about this. Yeah, so we can choose, if he so desires, he can choose to serve Krishna. And so basically, Prabhupada's making this point that someone once described it to me that it's kind of like a river where there's two parts. And so either you go left or you go right. And once you make that choice, you just get taken along. So same thing with spiritual life is like, you either, once you choose Krishna, then you're under Yoga Maya, and then you do what Krishna desires. And if you choose Maya, you're under Maha Maya, and you do what Maya chooses. You do what is not good for you. So it's true in that Krishna, he's Swarat, or he's independent. He's totally free to do anything and everything he likes. But we have this tiny choice. All we have is one choice that we can make. Really, in the ultimate sense, we think that I want to go to the mall today. It's actually our conditioning. This isn't even who we really are. It's not even our own choice, really. It's our past karma, our past proclivities and things like that. Actually, our only choice is this one small question of, are you going to serve Krishna? Are you going to, are you going to perfect your life? Are you going to choose happiness, or are you going to choose to try to find happiness your own way? So, yeah, thank you for bringing that point up.
Seems as the happinesses of this world are worse than the sufferings of this world, based on what Srila Prabhupada is saying, because it makes us feel that there is the possibility of enjoyment within this world of dualities. There is that every happiness is the possibility that happiness can stay forever, and that I'll be somehow or the other figure it out. It's just such a distraction. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your...
Thank you for that point. It goes back to the living entity we were talking about, is that when it's hard, then we start praying. I heard this joke once, it's like you can be on a plane full of atheists, and once it starts to crash, everyone's praying to God. It's funny, because that's what the material world, this person, they made this joke, but they're understanding the point of the material world, is to crash the plane just so much that we start praying again, which is what we do in the womb. And then things get nice, things get happy, and you forget God. I remember I was thinking about the miseries and distresses of the material world. Yesterday, it was beautiful, it was sunny. I went outside for a job walk, and I took a nap in the sun. And then you wake up the next morning, and I'm shivering. I'm what the heck is wrong with Texas? Someone once said Texas is the only place where you walk outside in your shorts and your tank top to turn on the water so that it doesn't freeze overnight. It's you can really see all the the Earth planet specifically you can see heaven and you can see hell in the same dimension. In hell, you just see suffering. In heaven, you just see opulence. But here, you just walk down a few blocks and you're seeing heavenly abodes. And then you walk down a few blocks the other way and you're seeing hellish abodes. One time of the day is very heavenly, other time of the day it's very hellish. And so it's like what we're talking about. It's like the verse you mentioned, to be peaceful with both. Any other thoughts? Jose, Sankirtan, Jayari?
Regarding like the choice to feel the happiness or distress, it just made me think about His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj when he was on the hospital bed, when he was about to leave his body. And I think that, and if anyone wants to correct me if I tell it wrong, then go for it. But I think he was even missing like part of his leg, and he was like just in total pain, physical pain, ever, right? But then his dear friend, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, came to his side, and they started doing a kirtan together. And at that point, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj looked over to His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and he just said, "It doesn't get any better than this." And it just shows that they were experiencing the bliss of Krishna consciousness on such a higher level that it was transcending the feeling of the physical pain. And they were able to experience that joy together. And it was probably like a multi-layered comment, you know, like the joy of being together with a friend in Krishna consciousness, and then the joy of just pure Krishna consciousness itself. And so I just thought that was beautiful, and it was about, like, you know, like they made so many choices in their whole life to choose Krishna. So it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Haribol.
Wow, that's a wonderful example. Yeah, very sweet. I remember I was listening to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's final lecture, and he was saying, like, he was basically like, this is the point where, you know, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he's gone. Like, I'm not going to be like called that anymore, and I'm taking this time to prepare myself to go back to Krishna Loka, to go to serving Krishna. So I'm just going to be hearing Krishna Katha. Please don't visit me. And it's just amazing to think about how the end of his life, he was really making the best deal of a bad bargain. That's what this whole verse is pretty much about. You know, we have this bad bargain, we have a material body, and even the worst situation, the worst health, the worst conditions become the most blissful thing. I'm going back to Godhead. What's better than that? So, yeah. All right, we have 1 minute left. If anyone has any burning comments or questions or criticisms or reflections. Pass the mic.
This whole idea of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj at the very end, and the point that you make was that he did say that in his last, I was there, you were all there, in his last class. But then he stepped back from it. He basically then said, no, come and do bhajan, kirtan in my room. So essentially, this whole idea of nirjan bhajan, and we can talk about that, gets a little esoteric as such, and Bhakti Siddhanta essentially goes away from it, saying that, you know, doing bhajan, individually, independent of the association of devotees, is more dangerous than to have the devotees around you. And well, in the sense, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, of course, he was at a much higher stage, and he could possibly do that. But
yeah.
But then to have this, you know, have his god brother there, have all the association of his disciples, so many, and then Radha Damodar came. Padaduli Mataji and Rashikendra Prabhu brought Radha Damodar, and he had a dream a few days ago that Tamal Krishna Maharaj would come. Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, you know, you're ready, Prabhupada is waiting for you. And he said, how can I leave? My disciples are there. And then he said, okay, but I'll come back. And so when Radha Damodar came, he said, yeah, this is the sign. Prabhupada wants me to come now. So he did go away from this nirjan bhajan thought that he had at that point of time, and went back into devotees chanting for him, basically 24/7. So for us to have this association, being able to chant with the devotees every single day, especially in Kartik, and every single day, throughout the year, and is the highest perfection, even beyond individually doing kirtan. So just a thought.
Yeah, thank you. It's good thought. I guess I'll just share like this last thought I had on that is that, or one time, you hear about Pariksha Maharaj, he only has 7 days left. We don't know how much time we have left. I was thinking, what would I do if I only had 1 day left? I was like, I would do what I do every day. Come to Mangalarti, chant with the devotees, and we're already doing the best thing that we could possibly be doing. And we're doing it every single day of our lives, so Hari Bol. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Spiritual world, Mother Padma.
poetry in the streets. Yeah, mischief. you.